I'm Eliza, and I was erased from my own home like I never mattered. I came home from college 2 weeks earlier than planned. Finals had drained me, and all I wanted was to collapse into my room, light a candle, and sleep for 3 days. But when I opened the front door, something felt wrong. The hallway smelled like his cologne atoms. My older brother, the golden child, the addict, the favorite. I hadn't seen him in months, not since Mom told me he'd finally gotten help again. I didn't think much of it until I reached the top of the stairs, swung open my door, and saw his duffel bag on my bed. My bed. My sanctuary. Gone. I stood in the doorway, frozen. My posters were gone. The books I alphabetized by hand, scattered. My vision narrowed as I spotted his things. Shoes dumped in the corner, takeout containers. His damn guitar. And right in the middle my journals, carelessly tossed onto the floor like garbage. I walked back downstairs, trying to process it. Heart racing. My mom was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables like nothing had happened. "Oh," she said, barely glancing up. "You're early. Your brother's staying here now." We figured it made sense. I waited for a punchline. None came. I swallowed. Hard. "What do you mean? He's staying here." She sighed, like I was being difficult. "He just got out of rehab, Eliza. He needs stability. Your room is bigger. And it's not like you're here full-time." My voice cracked. "So, what? I don't matter anymore." She didn't answer. She just wiped her hands on a towel and walked away. Dad was no better. "It's just temporary," he said, eyes fixed on the TV. No apology. No empathy. Just silence. Like I wasn't even part of this family. Like I was just a placeholder. The worst part wasn't the room. It was the bank statement I checked that night. I'd saved for 2 years working at the campus library, freelancing design gigs to buy a car. But my savings account balance was nearly empty. I stared at the numbers, thinking it had to be a mistake. But it wasn't. I found a withdrawal, signed by my father, transferred to Adam's medical bills. No call. No warning. No discussion. Just taken. Like my life wasn't my own. Like every bit of effort I put in was there to clean up someone else's mess. Again, when I confronted them. My mother didn't flinch. "Family helps family," she said. "You should be proud to support your brother." Proud? I wasn't proud. I was gutted. I wasn't asked. I was robbed. And yet, somehow, they spun it as love. As if my sacrifice proved my worth. As if staying silent made me noble. But I saw the truth. I was just their fallback. The responsible one. The invisible one. The one who always did what was right. And that made me easy to take from. That made me safe. But not anymore. I was done being safe. That night, I slept in the attic. My mattress didn't fit, so I dragged up a sleeping bag. I lay there, knees to chest, heart aching. I heard Adam laughing downstairs, his voice loud, relaxed, like he hadn't stolen a thing. That laughter echoed in my head, and something inside me snapped. Not loudly, not violently, quietly, coldly, the kind of break that doesn't show until it's too late. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared at the beams in the ceiling and promised myself one thing. They would feel this loss, just like I felt it. Deeply. Days passed, and they didn't even ask how I was doing. I was a ghost in my own home. They'd made space for Adam, but not for me. My mother cooked his favorite meals, doted on him like he was a war hero. My father praised his strength. I watched from the sidelines, invisible. When I tried to speak, the room went silent. Like my pain was inconvenient. Like my presence was unwelcome. The family portrait still hung in the hallway, our smiling faces, taken before everything fell apart. I couldn't look at it without wanting to tear it down. Adam had always been reckless, but he was charming. That charm had bought him a lifetime of second chances. Even now, fresh out of rehab, he talked about new beginnings and making things right. But nothing changed. He slept till noon, drank energy drinks all day, and played music at midnight. I had classes to attend, job interviews to prepare for, but none of that mattered. They tiptoed around his needs and trampled over mine. Every day I spent under that roof, I felt smaller, erased, and I knew I had two choices: fade into the background or rise from it. I started documenting everything, every withdrawal, every missed apology, every time I was dismissed. I screenshotted texts, photographed bank statements, recorded voice memos when they spoke freely, never suspecting I'd one day use it all. I became my own historian, not because I needed revenge yet, but because truth matters, because stories get twisted. And I wasn't going to let mine be rewritten by the people who tried to break me. I wasn't going to be the villain in their version of events. I was going to be the storm that reminded them exactly what they threw away. I remembered being 12, watching Adam crash Dad's car. He cried, lied. They forgave him. When I got AB+ in math, I was grounded. The rules had always been different. But back then, I accepted it. I thought love meant sacrifice. I thought being good meant being quiet. But now I saw the pattern. I saw how my silence had been weaponized. They expected me to endure endlessly, to forgive endlessly. But all that ended here. I didn't come home to be punished. I came home to reclaim what was mine, or at least to burn what they stole. Every morning I passed my old door, now Adam's room, I felt the heat of rage rising in my chest. I wanted to scream, but instead I smiled, because rage is best served cold. I wasn't going to make a scene. I was going to make a plan. And when it came, it wouldn't be loud. It would be quiet, sharp, surgical, like a scalpel cutting through bone. They wouldn't see it coming. Not from me. Not from their good girl. But regret, I've learned, doesn't knock. It moves in, just like he did. And when it does, it takes everything. It was a Tuesday night when the unraveling began. I heard Adam on the phone in my room, my old room, telling someone he needed more money fast. He mentioned a stash I supposedly still had. I froze behind the door, listening, rage pulsing like electricity through my veins. So he knew about my savings, my emergency fund, my years of weekend jobs, babysitting, tutoring, grinding while. He spiraled, and he was planning to take that too. They always said he needed help. But what about me? I needed protection too. That night, the version of me that played nice died quietly. Mom sat at the table the next morning, humming while making pancakes. Dad was in the living room reading the paper like we were the perfect family. I sat across from them, watching their calm faces, wondering how they became so blind, or maybe they were never blind at all. Maybe they knew what Adam was doing and decided I'd stay silent. I had always been the good one, right? I never made noise. I kept my pain folded tight. But silence doesn't mean peace. It means pressure. And pressure eventually explodes. I checked my bank account. $2,386 gone. Just like that. A wire transfer I didn't authorize. I stood there staring at the screen like it might correct itself. I stormed into the living room, holding up my phone like evidence in a murder trial. Did either of you touch my savings? I asked, my voice trembling. Dad looked up over his glasses. Mom turned off the stove. Eliza, you're being dramatic. Adam needed help. We thought you'd understand. That was it. No apology. No warning. Just we thought you'd understand. I walked out without a word. I was done understanding. The silence that followed felt heavier than any scream. I stayed away for days, staying at my friend Leah's apartment. But even then, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying it all, my childhood, the lies, the way they smothered me in expectations while letting Adam roam free like a fire with no control. I remembered birthdays forgotten, trophies ignored, my college rejection blamed on me not trying hard enough. Yet Adam failed upward. He was sick. They said he was troubled, but I wasn't. So I didn't deserve help, or compassion, or protection. That realization hit harder than the theft dot at Leah's. I started piecing together everything: bank statements, dates, login locations. I knew how Adam thought. He was sloppy, spoiled, and never believed he'd get caught. I checked my cloud. Backup, security footage from our front door, even old email alerts. The evidence piled up quickly. He used my password, probably found it on a sticky note in my drawer. The betrayal was paper cut precise, shallow, but many, and suddenly, my silence felt like complicity. Not anymore. I wasn't going to be the soft-hearted girl who absorbed damage like a sponge. I was going to make them feel every single drop they drained from me. Leah offered to talk to a lawyer friend, but I didn't want a courtroom. No, that would make them the victims again. Look, what Eliza is doing to her poor brother. I needed something colder, sharper, revenge that didn't scream, it whispered. I started making plans. I had access to accounts, emails, and files Adam didn't even remember existed. He once made me his emergency contact for a student. Loaned a loan he defaulted on. Interesting, right? I didn't destroy his life out of rage. I rearranged it piece by piece. With focus. With calm. Like cleaning a house after a flood. But first, I needed to watch. To let it all unfold. I came home unexpectedly one morning and saw Adam pacing the porch, yelling into his phone. No. She won't do anything, she's a coward, he barked. I smiled from the car. Coward, that label used to hurt. Now it lit a fire. I walked past him like he didn't exist, walked into my parents' kitchen and poured coffee. Mom blinked at me like I was a ghost. Eliza, she whispered. I sat, took a sip, and smiled. I'm just visiting, because when you return, without begging, they start wondering what you know. That same day, I went upstairs while they were out. My room had been gutted, new furniture, Adam's junk, a smell I couldn't place. But I wasn't there to mourn. I opened the closet, felt the loose floorboard, and lifted it. Still there, a flash drive I hid years ago. Adam used to record everything: parties, schemes, scams like some low-budget movie villain, and I kept the proof. He laughed at me once, said, "You keep everything like some kind of nerd archivist." Now it would ruin him. I took the drive and left like a shadow. My regret had turned into ammunition. Back at Leah's, I played the files. Voices, faces, names, drugs, deals. Even video of him forging Dad's signature on a car lease. All time-stamped, clear as day. I cataloged everything. This wasn't just theft, it was a pattern of destruction. And they protected it, enabled it, funded it. I wasn't just exposing Adam. I was exposing the entire rotten foundation they built around him. The golden son, the forgotten daughter, a family myth about who deserved love and who didn't. I was going to shatter it in public, and I wasn't going to give them a chance to hide. I booked an appointment at a local news outlet. Small town, but gossip spreads fast. I told them everything, showed them footage, provided receipts. They didn't hesitate. This was gold. Will, blur your face, the reporter offered. No, I said. Let them see me. If I was going to burn the illusion down, I wanted to watch the flames reflect in their eyes. I wasn't angry anymore. I was precise, calm, cold, and that scared them more than anything. The day the story aired, I went silent, turned off my phone, sat by the window, and waited for the chaos I knew was coming. By that weekend, it had begun. Dad's job was under review. His signature appeared on multiple fraudulent forms. Adam's parole officer had questions. And Mom, her friends started canceling lunches. Leah's phone buzzed nonstop with people asking for statements. But I didn't respond. I watched it all quietly, sipping tea, listening to the collapse of the empire they built on my silence. Regret doesn't always come in screams. Sometimes it comes as a knock on the door no one wants to open. I'm Eliza Granger, and I don't believe in coincidences anymore. Every betrayal, every slight was planned. My parents didn't just overlook me, they removed me. The day I moved into that cramped rental apartment, I made a vow. If silence was my role, I turned it into my weapon. I knew I couldn't confront them, not yet. I needed to strike where it hurt most. Control, image, and legacy. My brother Adam had always been their golden boy, but beneath his charm lived chaos. And this time, I wasn't going to cover for him. I was going to let him burn in slow motion. I started small. I still had access to the shared cloud folder our family used years of receipts, property documents, and emails. I made copies. Quietly. Adam's bank details were in there too, including the offshore account our father set up for him in college. That's when I realized how deep the favoritism ran. They hadn't just given him my room or savings, they'd built him a safety net from my sacrifices. My college fund gone, rerouted during his second rehab stint. I didn't cry this time. I documented everything. Grief was replaced with cold, strategic fury. At work, I played the steady daughter role, professional, composed, successful. No one knew I was building a plan in the background. I called it the reversal. I wanted to take everything they'd taken from me and make them feel the emptiness I lived with. Adam was on a business trip, or so he claimed, but I knew. His real location, Vegas. I hired a private investigator. Photos, receipts, timeline. I needed undeniable proof. Meanwhile, I reached out to my aunt, my mother's estranged sister, the one she always called a liability. Turns out, Aunt Claire held secrets. Claire had been cut out of the family's life when she questioned how my parents managed their estate. After Grandma died, she always believed my father forged some of the documents to keep the money away from her. Now, armed with my findings, she was ready to talk. We shared a bottle of wine over spreadsheets and timelines. She showed me inconsistencies in a will, signatures that didn't match, and properties sold under questionable names. My father hadn't just manipulated us, he'd manipulated generations. We struck a deal. I'd help her reclaim her share, and she'd help me bring them all down. Back home, I visited under the pretense of peace. I smiled, offered to cook dinner, even cleaned my old room, which now reeked of Adam's cologne and stale smoke. I wasn't there to bond. I was planting bugs. 2 in the living room, 1 in Dad's office, 1 in Adam's room. I listened every night for 2 weeks. What I heard confirmed everything. Mom worrying about Adam's spending. Dad covering a bounce check. Adam complaining about Eliza's cold attitude. No mention of guilt. No regret. Just entitlement. And that was the final confirmation I owed them nothing. Not anymore. Using Claire's attorney, I quietly filed a financial disclosure request regarding my grandmother's trust. The documents showed a massive withdrawal the same year Adam crashed his first car. It was all connected. Every loss in my life had padded his failures. My anger was now refined, controlled, and aimed. I began leaking pieces of the Vegas evidence anonymously to Adam's employer. Receipts, footage, a copy of his fake presentation deck. His job was the only thing keeping his fragile pride intact, and soon it would collapse. Meanwhile, I updated Claire with every move. She was in awe. "You were always the quiet one," she whispered. The next step required precision. I transferred a small sum to $100 from the family account. Adam accessed regularly to an old business name my father had shut down years ago. I wanted to see who noticed. No one did. They never looked twice when Adam dipped into that pool. That test gave me the green light for phase 2. With help from a friend in cybersecurity, I staged a breach just enough to trigger concern, but not suspicion. It spooked my father. He changed passwords. Good. That gave me access to his device logs. I learned more in those few days than I had in years. I compiled everything: photos, recordings, bank records, signatures, audio. It was a mountain of truth they couldn't ignore, but I wasn't ready to deliver it just yet. I needed the final blow to come when they were most confident, most smug. That moment was approaching. They were planning a grand party for Adam's career milestone, a fabricated event meant to polish his image. Invitations were sent. Journalists invited. I RSVP'd with a smile. I bought a new dress, black, sleek, like armor. That night would be my battlefield, and my silence would finally end. I wasn't just coming to attend. I was coming to rewrite everything in parallel. I scheduled a meeting with a local journalist known for taking down corrupt families. I gave her a taste of the documents anonymously. She was intrigued. If you're real, she said, this could explode. I just smiled. I also sent Claire copies of everything with detailed instructions: who to contact, when to publish, what to leak if anything happened to me. I wasn't just exposing lies, I was protecting myself from retaliation. Every step of this plan had a backup. I wasn't naive anymore. I was surgical, and I was done asking for space, respect, or truth. I was taking all of it back. On the day before the party, I stood in my empty apartment, surrounded by evidence, silence, and one packed bag. I wasn't running. I was positioning myself. I'd booked a hotel across town. The moment the final act began, I needed distance, clarity, control. As I looked out the window, I realized something. Revenge doesn't always roar. Sometimes it builds quietly, breath by breath, until it's undeniable. I wasn't the discarded daughter anymore. I was the reckoning they never saw coming, and they wouldn't forget my name, not after this. The night of the party arrived, like a storm wrapped in velvet. I stood outside the grand hall, heels silent on the marble, heart steady like a metronome. Laughter spilled from the entranced clinking glasses, polished lies, and toasts built on delusion. Adam stood at the center, soaking in admiration for a job he never earned. Achievements built on my stolen life. My parents beamed with pride, oblivious to what was coming. I didn't walk in as the forgotten daughter. I entered like a whisper before a scream. My eyes scanned the crowd, and I knew every soul in that room was about to witness the truth. I had scheduled the first email to hit exactly at 8 p.m. Photos of Adam gambling in Vegas. Timestamped, geotagged, undeniable. It went out to his employer, the investors, and a few well-placed journalists. Simultaneously, Claire dropped the first round of forged document evidence online: my father's signatures, mismatched wills, and altered trust fund statements. Within 15 minutes, the atmosphere in the room began to shift. Phones buzzed. Murmurs started. My mother's laugh cracked. Adam's smile wavered. Then the journalist I tipped walked in, bold and brazen, recording the whole thing live. It was no longer a celebration. It was exposure. I approached the center of the room slowly, deliberately, locking eyes with Adam. He blinked, confused, his mask slipping. Eliza. He stuttered. I didn't respond. Instead, I held up a USB drive, black, sharp, final. Everything you built was a lie, I said, loud enough for silence to fall. People turned. My father stepped forward, voice trembling. What are you doing? I smiled. Giving you a mirror. The screen behind them flickered on, sensed. Remotely. I'd arranged the AV technician to play the footage Adam's drunk and bragging. My father coaching him through the fake job titles. Even my mother admitting she rerouted my college fund. Gasps filled the room. The video played like a horror film in a ballroom. My mother covered her face. My father shouted at the technician to stop it. But it was automated looped. Adam stood frozen, white as a ghost, eyes darting like a trapped animal. I turned to the crowd, letting the truth settle like ash. This is what happens when you sacrifice your daughter for your son's failures, I said coldly. This is what happens when you pretend silence means weakness. The weight of every ignored cry, every stolen opportunity crashed back onto their shoulders, and I didn't flinch. My father tried to approach, but I stepped back. Don't, I warned. You made your choices. Now live with them. Security moved in to calm the chaos, escorting the journalist out too late. The video was already online, trending. Emails had already been opened, screenshots shared. My father's empire, Adam's career, my mother's pristine reputation, it all crumbled in real time. I didn't scream, didn't cry. I just watched. This wasn't revenge. It was correction. For years, I begged them to see me. Tonight, I made sure the world saw everything. And in that reflection, they couldn't look away anymore. Outside, the air was cool, the night unusually quiet for so much destruction. Claire texted, "They're done. You did it." I smiled at the screen. I didn't feel guilt. I felt clean. No more pretending. No more waiting for justice. I had built it myself. As I walked to the car, people stared, some in awe, others in disbelief. I was no longer invisible. I had peeled back their golden image and showed the rot beneath. No amount of spin could reverse it now. No PR firm could rewrite what I had exposed. The Granger name was no longer untouchable. It was shattered by mourning. News outlets had picked up the story. Business error caught in web of lies. Family empire built on stolen inheritance. I didn't hide. I gave one interview controlled, measured. I didn't need to scream. I just laid out the facts. My parents went into hiding. Adam, fired, blacklisted. He tried to call me 3 times. I didn't answer. Let him sit in the silence he left me in for years. My mother emailed a pitiful apology. Too late. That night broke more than reputations. It broke their control. The illusion of family, of unity, was gone. Truth had taken its rightful place. In the weeks that followed, Claire filed a formal lawsuit, backed by the evidence we gathered. Investigations into my father's companies began. Former employees came forward. It turned out I wasn't the only one they stepped on. The avalanche had started, and no one could stop it. I stayed in the background, calm and focused. I had waited years for this break, not of hearts, but of power. They'd broken me once. I simply returned the favor with interest. It wasn't personal anymore. It was necessary. And with every headline, every shattered illusion, I felt a piece of myself return. I started to rebuild not just my life, but my sense of self. I bought a small home, modest, but mine. No more living in shadows. I enrolled in a graduate program I once dreamed of, but gave up when my funds vanished. I funded it myself with money Claire helped me reclaim. I didn't seek applause. I wasn't a hero. I was a survivor who finally decided not to be quiet. My strength wasn't in the revenge, it was in the rebuild. Still, the break was needed. They needed to feel what I had felt. Lost, shamed, empty, alone. Some nights I sat in silence and thought of what could have been, what kind of family we might have been. If love had been equal, if truth had mattered. But then I'd remind myself those thoughts were illusions too. The truth is, they chose to break me. I just chose not to stay broken. The silence I lived in wasn't weakness. It was the space where I sharpened my mind, prepared my strike, and built my escape. I didn't need them anymore. They needed the version of me that never spoke. That Eliza was gone. And this one, she wasn't asking for space. She owned it. I didn't tell anyone what it cost me emotionally, spiritually, the sleepless nights, the ache of betrayal, the effort it took not to turn bitterness into identity. But I walked through every dark corner and came out the other side, stronger, sharper, louder. The break wasn't a moment. It was a process, a series of fractures that finally led to clarity. And now, when I see my reflection, I no longer search for the version they wanted. I see myself fully. The girl who lost everything and used the pieces to build something unshakable. The reckoning wasn't just for them. It was for me. The day I chose to burn it all down didn't begin with a storm, it was eerily calm. I wore the same soft smile I'd mastered over years of being overlooked. That docile daughter disguise. But inside, I was fire. Adam had taken my room, my money, and my place in their hearts. Now, it was time to show them what that cost. My silence had bought them comfort. But today, silence would pay me back with screams, shock, and shame. I wasn't just reclaiming space, I was tearing down the walls they built to box me in. And I would not flinch. I began with the lawyer, my Uncle David. I'd shown him the files, the bank transfers, the signatures Adam forged to drain my savings. I asked if those were crimes. He said yes, and then he saw the look in my eyes. "You're serious?" he asked. I said, "Deadly." The documents were already prepared. My parents' names were on many of them, signing off blindly. He warned me it could shatter the family. I just laughed. There's nothing left to shatter. For years, I protected them from consequences. But they never once shielded me. Not anymore. I didn't go quietly. I made it public. I sent the story to a journalist, an old classmate of mine who owed me a favor. She ran the headline, "Family Trust Abused Daughter's Funds to Bail Out Addicted Son." The piece spread like wildfire, paired with screenshots and records I leaked anonymously. The internet doesn't forgive. My mother called me sobbing. My father cursed through his teeth. Adam, he vanished. No social media. No defense. And me? I sipped my coffee in the apartment I paid for myself alone. But powerful. They made their choices. I just illuminated them. The eviction notice was next. My parents had refinanced the house in Adam's name, and he defaulted. The bank took it back. I didn't stop it. When they asked where they would live, I gave them the same shrug they gave me when they stole my room. "You'll figure it out." My voice was flat, colder than I'd ever let them hear before. I watched them pack boxes, watched them avoid my eyes. The shame clung to their skin like sweat. They finally knew what it felt like to be displaced, to be disposable, to be cast aside without a second thought. They tried to talk to me at the final family dinner we had. My mother cried into her wine. My father begged me not to press charges. I said nothing. I let them sit in the ruins of their choices. Let them see the daughter they created, not the gentle, soft-spoken one, but the mirror of their betrayal. Every minute ticked like a countdown. Adam didn't show up. He couldn't face me, couldn't face what he'd become. Or maybe what I'd become. I looked around the table, memorized the emptiness, and stood. "We're done," I said, and I walked away forever. It didn't feel like victory at first. It felt cold, heavy, strange. But that was grief leaving my bones, resentment cracking out of my spine. For once, I didn't owe them peace. I didn't owe them anything. Not explanations, not comfort, not silence. I lit a candle in my new apartment. That night, not for hope, but to honor the version of me that died. The girl who tried to be enough for them. She deserved a farewell. She was gone now. In her place stood someone sharper, smarter, unforgiving, and unapologetically alive. I changed my number, blocked them all, cleared every photo. I wasn't haunted. I was finally clean. I built my business from scratch. With the last 1,000 I had, I slept on floors, worked double shifts. But every time I wanted to quit, I remembered the day they emptied my room without warning. That memory fueled me. Rage, when harnessed, is a powerful architect. And so I built, brick by emotional brick, until I had a life they couldn't access, couldn't judge, couldn't ruin. That was my revenge, not just in what I took from them, but in what I rebuilt without them. Years later, Adam called from a rehab center. I didn't pick up. He left a message saying he was sorry, that he'd finally realized what he'd done. That mom and dad were living in a rental and barely talking. I listened once, then deleted it. I had no place left for their guilt. They made their beds. I wasn't climbing back in. Forgiveness, they say, is noble, but so is survival. And sometimes the only closure you get is the sound of your boundaries slamming shut. I didn't need his apology. I needed my peace. And I had it. People ask me why I cut them all off. They say, but they're your family. And I always smiled gently because they don't know. They weren't there when I came home to find my bed gone. My books dumped into boxes. My savings spent too. Save a man who'd never save himself. Family isn't blood, it's how you're treated when no one is watching. And I was treated like nothing. So that's what I became to them. Nothing. Now they live with that silence. I don't scream anymore. I don't explain. I simply exist where they can't reach me. Sometimes I walk past the old neighborhood. The house is owned by strangers. Now, the lawn is wild, the windows dark. I stand across the street for a moment, remembering everything they took from me, everything I took back. It's strange how places hold energy. That house no longer holds mine. It holds theirs the regret, the fear, the silence I once gave them. But it doesn't hurt anymore. Because I'm not the girl who stood quietly while her world crumbled. I'm the woman who rebuilt hers from ash. And I never, ever looked back for long. One afternoon, I opened an email. It was from a young girl, someone who'd read the article. She said, "Your story saved me." I didn't know I was allowed to walk away. That's when it hit me. My revenge didn't end with them. It echoed. It planted seeds in others like me. Silent daughters, forgotten sons, betrayed souls. My pain had turned into something powerful truth. And truth, it doesn't ask permission. It doesn't whisper. It roars. Just like I did once. I finally chose myself. That's the legacy I left behind, not the ashes of a broken home, but the spark of a new one. This is my story. I didn't just give them regret. I gave myself redemption. And that, in the end, was worth everything they tried to take.